So you're thinking about buying a chef knife. Which one? There's quite a few. What's up, guys? I'm Chad Kubanoff. Getting a knife is very important. It is a very important first step for a young cook or a cook who's starting to take themselves more seriously. One of the first things I ask people when they're coming in for an interview or they're doing the email thing and trying to get a job going is if they have their own knives. It just says something to me as a chef, as an employer, that you're serious. So today we're going to be talking about chef knives. Why you're going to get a chef knife first, and which chef knife should you get first. Why are we getting a chef knife? Why don't I get a Santoku or a slicer or a petty or whatever? Why a chef's knife? Basically, everyone starts with a chef's knife, or should start with a chef's knife, because it's the most versatile. You know, I have a few other knives that I really enjoy so much, but every once in a while I'm like, damn, I should just bring out my old chef's knife. Just bring it out. Because it can do everything. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to be the workhorse. It's designed to be versatile. For me personally, I prefer a longer blade. I like a 10-inch chef's knife as opposed to an 8, but either way, whatever you're comfortable with, it will work, it will do the job. You can slice with it, you can chop, you can roll cut, you can do everything with it. That's why it's so great, and that's why it should be the first knife that you start with. And if you're watching this video and you haven't bought a knife yet, I don't think you should be spending a lot of money on a knife. One, because you don't know what you're doing yet. And you shouldn't be spending that kind of money. You shouldn't be spending $100, $300, $500 on a knife. Anytime I talk to a cook who's looking to buy his first chef's knife, I always tell them to buy the same knife. It's the Victrinox chef knife. I don't care what handle style, that doesn't matter. I don't care the blade length so much. Either 8 inches minimum, don't get a 6-inch blade. Get an 8-inch blade, anywhere from 8 to 10. Probably the 8 is the easier to start with and the most versatile. Because if you're using that knife during line work too, and you're in a tight space, a 10-inch knife can sometimes just be too big, especially working close to other cooks, and it's a really small spot. The 10-inch knife might just get in the way, so an 8-inch knife is a little more versatile in that way. I personally prefer a 10-inch knife for prepping, but you know, I have a smaller knife that I would use in a line situation like that. The Victrinox is a fantastic knife. It's thin, which I like, and it can be very sharp. You know, that's down to your skills as a cook, as a knife sharpener. So the blade comes sharp, and you can make it sharp, but that's with practice. It's just a really good knife for like 40 bucks. If it had a prettier handle on it, you could sell that knife for 100 bucks. The quality of that blade, it's fantastic. This is it. It's a beast. It may not be the most beautiful knife in the world, and if it had a cooler handle, you would be like, oh, it's so cool, but it just works. The blade is relatively thin, more of like a Japanese style thickness, and compared to a Western, or compared to like a German thickness. I have a Wusthof, I'll show you too. But it's wonderful. For 40 bucks, this is the knife. There really is no, there's not much more to the video, because this is it. I've done the research on this already. This is the knife you should buy, whether you want 8-inch or 10-inch, and you should get a cover for it, a plastic cover like this. You can just put the cover right on the blade and just throw that in your bag. You don't even need a knife kit yet. It could just be blade protector in your book bag. That's it, and you're ready to go. This is it. This is the one. Just get this one. If you have some more money and you would want to spend some more money on a different knife, okay, there are other options. But if you don't want to spend at least $100, get this knife. I think this is 40 bucks on Amazon right now, something like that. Don't buy another knife for like 60 or 70 or 80. If you're ready to step up to like 100, 120, 150, there are other blades available. But really, I can't say it enough. This is the one. Just get this one. Now, if you have a little bit more money and you want a different knife, the Misono, Swedish steel. I love this knife too. Oh my God. That was close. This was not my first chef's knife, but it was one of my first. First serious one I had was a Wusthof. Now, I don't particularly like Wusthof anymore. But when I went into my first nice kitchen, I wanted to get another chef's knife, and this is what I got. Partly because I was young, and I thought it was cool because it had a dragon on it, which I do still think is cool that it has a dragon on it. And I like the idea that it was carbon steel because I didn't know what it was. And I heard about it, but I didn't know anything about it, so I wanted that for that reason. And these are not that expensive either. I think this is $100. So it was relatively affordable to me at the time. We weren't in like Ninox territory. We were at like 300 to 350 bucks. It was $100. It's a thinner blade again, which I really like. It's longer than the 8-inch Wusthof that I started with, which I really do like long blades. I definitely like longer blades. Carbon steel, or Swedish steel. Downsides. It discolors, which isn't bad. It's kind of cool. Gives a little more character, but you have to be aware of it. You have to take care of it. So you always have to keep it dry. That means as you're slicing, as you're prepping throughout the day, you have a dry towel that you're wiping it off. If I'm cutting tomatoes or I'm cutting things with a lot of moisture, cucumbers or something like that, immediately when I am done that prep task, I wipe it off. That's not a big deal. I mean, it can sound like an annoyance at first, but really it's not a big deal. You just get used to it. You keep a dry towel, you wipe, no big deal. If I'm cutting lemons, I'm more aware of that because the acidity on the blade will discolor and rust it faster. So I even wipe it really faster. If I had another knife on my station, I usually keep I usually keep a slicer and a petty, but if I had my chef's and a petty, I would use the petty to cut the lemon as opposed to this, just to not deal with any hard acid on this blade. I mean, I have a few of these Misono Swedish steels. One because they're cheaper, which I appreciate. But the idea that part of this carbon steel thing is that the blade is softer, the steel is softer, so that means you can sharpen them really quickly. They tend to dull quickly, but they sharpen really quickly. So with my carbon steel, I will have my steel out, and I will steel throughout the day. But once this blade starts to bend a little bit or dull a little bit, I can straighten it right back so fast. A few strokes on the steel and it's back. And I can really appreciate the carbon steel for that. And also when I'm actually on the stone sharpening, that process to get it to a nice blade sharpness again is really, really fast. So I do love this knife. I absolutely do. It is, if I have a chef knife on my board, it's gonna be this one. I tend to work more with a slicer and a petty as opposed to a chef's knife now, but I do like to bring this one out every once in a while. So the first knife that I ever had was a Wusthof. This is an 8-inch Wusthof chef's knife. I forget what they call this style of hander. It's not the classic. This is the classic style Wusthof handle. This is whatever. I don't know what it's called. Doesn't matter. The handle doesn't really matter. It's just a preference. When I got this knife, I loved it. I was super psyched about it. You know, I had no other experience with anything else, so this was, to me, like, amazing. I had it as a set. As I grew older, as I experienced, worked with, and touched and cut with other knives, the Wustofs, to me, fell out of, they're not my favorite knife anymore. It's a great knife. It's bulky. And that's what it is. You know, that's what it's designed to be. That's the German style knife. It's got the bolster right here. If you look at my Misono, which is completely straight, has no bolster, and then you got this guy, the Wusthof, which has got that bolster. I don't like that. I don't like that because it doesn't give me the full reach of the blade. When I'm sharpening, I get into there. You can see on parts of this that when I sharpen, I kind of getting into that bolster because I'm just tired of it. I want to just make that knife. I don't like that thing. They have it as like a grip. I don't like it. So that's one reason I don't like the Wusthof anymore. And the other thing is how thick the blade is. So if we look at the blade thickness of the Wusthof compared to the victrinox is much thinner than the Wusthof. A thinner blade is a sharper blade. The thinner the edges, the sharper it is. The easier it glides through whatever I'm trying to cut. Where I'm at in my career and skill set now is precision. I want to be as precise as I possibly can. So I want my blade to be as thin as possible to make the cleanest cut possible. Now the downside to thin blades is that they're more delicate. So when some of my even thinner blades, my slicer that's super thin, cutting a butternut squash or something really hard like that would give me a small heart attack because that blade is delicate and I have to be aware of that and treat it well. To me now, when I think about Wusthof knives or German style knives, I just think of like the beater knife. It's the thing that I'm going to use to cut through lobster shells or to cut through very hard like winter vegetables, butternut squash, or just things that are super hard, things that I would never put my delicate thin blades to. And when I'm doing that type of work, I definitely prefer the 10-inch Wusthof as opposed to the 8-inch Wusthof. You can see the difference in length. So when I'm cutting things that are very hard, they need more strength, they need more leverage. So having that extra blade length of the 10-inch really allows me to just get more force on cutting something that's so hard. I also really enjoy the balance of the 10-inch of such a big blade like a Wusthof. The 10-inch, I actually really like this knife. The 8-inch, I don't really like this knife. And when you're looking on Amazon to buy your first chef's knife, please don't get distracted by all the knives that look really cool that might be $25 or $40. Spend $40. Get the Victrinox 8-inch. Just do that. I'm telling you, it's the one to get. This is not a sponsored video. I've just done this a lot. I've worked with a lot of cooks. This is the knife to start with. It's the best knife you're going to get for 40 bucks. If you're ready to spend a little bit more money, you can get like the Misono Swedish steel. If you don't want to deal with the carbon steel, you can maybe pick up like a Shun, S-H-U-N, or a seisin. I'll link both of those in the description below. They're both non-reactive, non-carbon steel, still in like the $100 to $130, $140 range. That would be kind of the next level, or like a global as well. All that would kind of be in the same category of next stage. But it's either Victrinox at 40 bucks or 120, and then there's maybe 4 or 5 brands all in the 8-inch chef's knife area. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, give it the thumbs up. If you're interested in this kind of content, consider subscribing, because there's gonna be a lot of like food related, chef, cook. I'm gonna try to use the YouTube channel more as an education platform, more for like the culinary school. Instagram is gonna be a little bit more like fun cinematography kind of stuff, but so we'll see how this develops. But if you like it, give it a subscribe. Also, if you have any ideas for videos or have any questions, comment below. All right, see you guys.